The Oscar nominations are going to be announced this coming Tuesday, which means it is time for me to give my final Oscar nomination predictions. It's been a while since I've made one of these videos. I think the last Oscar prediction video I made was like back in October. Now it's time for me to refresh my list. There is a lot that has happened, obviously a lot that needs to be changed. So let's get into it. Okay, so for Best Picture, there are 6 films that I believe to be locks that are pretty much guaranteed to get one of the 10 Best Picture nominations. Those are Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, Top Gun Maverick, Elvis, and Tar. All those films have been performing super well across the board. Obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Banshees, and The Fabelmans all have gotten various awards at the Globes, Critics' Choice. At number 7, I think Avatar: The Way of Water is also very strong, maybe not quite as much of a lock as those other 6 movies since it hasn't been performing as well recently. It didn't do super well at the BAFTAs, but it is the biggest movie in the world right now. It's one of the biggest movies of all time. You know, critically, it was very well liked. It has a lot of potential in many tech nominations, so I think it's pretty much a lock as well. And then now is when things start to get interesting. So at number 8, I have All Quiet on the Western Front, which makes me so happy. I've been championing this movie ever since it was released. I was one of the few believers that this would indeed get a Best Picture nomination. Even a couple of months ago, I had this in my 10 when nobody else did. So I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. Obviously, it was shortlisted for a whole bunch of Oscar categories and then did insanely well at the BAFTAs. It got like 14 nominations, which is almost every single nomination that it could have been nominated for. That's insane. Obviously, this film has a lot of love behind it. Kind of crazy that this film has come out of nowhere and becomes Netflix's top contender when they were really pushing for Glass Onion and Pinocchio for a while. Both of those films look like they're not going to be happening, and this is going to be the Netflix film to get in, which I'm very happy about. No complaints. Number 9, I have The Whale. This is one that I've recently added back to my list. I did not think this one was actually going to end up making it in for the longest time, but over the past couple weeks, this movie has had a big surge. And obviously Brendan Fraser won the Critics' Choice. When you consider that Brendan Fraser is a potential winner in Best Actor, and that it's going to be nominated in Adapted Screenplay, and then Hong Chow could be nominated for Supporting Actress, that's a very good package and makes it easy to get one of those slots. All right, number 10 is when it gets real interesting. So I think there are like 4 films that are kind of fighting for this 10th slot. Those films being Babylon, Triangle of Sadness, Women Talking, and maybe Glass Onion. I think those are kind of the top contenders, and I can really see each of them getting in for various reasons. Babylon, obviously, I could see getting in because it is so strong in some other categories. It's potentially going to be winning production design. It has a shot at winning score. And obviously, there's always the potential of Margot Robbie or Brad Pitt, which we'll get to. But the fact that this film has just been so divisive, and it's obviously bombed at the box office. It has a lot of bad press around it. And I think, unlike The Whale, which kind of surged at the right time, Babylon kind of took a hit at the wrong time. I could see it getting in. I could see the Oscars really going for this film because it's all about Hollywood and it's very impressive on a technical level. And it gets in because of that, very much like Nightmare Alley. Nightmare Alley was a film that did not seem like it was going to get in, but it got a surprise SAG nomination just like Babylon, and then it did pretty well in some tech categories, so it just made its way in. Obviously, it had an auteur filmmaker at the helm in Guillermo del Toro, just like this film has a very respected filmmaker in Damien Chazelle. So they seem very comparable. While I think Nightmare Alley was like more universally liked, not a lot of people loved it, not a lot of people hated it. Babylon has a lot of people that absolutely love the film and a lot of people who absolutely hate the film. So I don't know, I think it could go either way. And then obviously Women Talking is another possible contender, but it's just been performing so poorly. It was completely shut out of the BAFTAs, which was crazy. It didn't even get an Adapted Screenplay nomination. The film has just not been performing as well as it needs to justify it being in a top 10. There's nothing that indicates that this film will make it in. It hasn't got the PGA, it didn't get the BAFTAs, but I think it still has a chance. weirdly. The main reason being is that I think it's going to be pretty strong in adapted screenplay. I don't think it's going to win at this point, but it has a shot to win, I think, if it gets nominated. It did also get the SAG nomination, which is pretty big as well, so I could see it creeping its way in here at the end of the day, but it just isn't looking very strong at this point, so it's a bit of a risky move to try to fit it into that 10. I don't know. And then we have Triangle of Sadness, which I think could be nominated because it's going to get the screenplay nomination, and Donnie DeLeon could be nominated for supporting actress. So that could be a nice little package for that film and elevate it into Best Picture. Should I be crazy? Should I say Women Talking? Would that be wild? Okay, I've made my decision. I'm gonna go with Babylon for now, just because I think it's gonna win production design. I think it is pretty likely gonna win score. So if you got 2 wins in there and some potential in some other categories, I know it's divisive, but there might be enough passion from some voters to get it in. I'm hoping it gets in, quite honestly. I'm a big fan of Babylon. It's one of my favorites of the year. So I'll be crossing my fingers that it gets in. But you know, maybe it's wishful thinking. We shall see. Beyond those movies, like I said, Glass Onion obviously has, you know, somewhat of a shot as well. Though I don't think it's really as strong as these other films, though it did get a PGA nomination, which is, you know, nothing to sneeze at. Black Panther Wakanda Forever could also get in. You know, I could see that happening. It has potential in many other categories as well, and it also got a PGA nomination. She Said, Woman King, RRR, Pinocchio, those films all seem kinda dead. I would be very surprised if any of those films end up getting in. All right, let's move on to director. Number 1, for the longest time I had Spielberg. I really thought that Spielberg would end up taking it home. And while I do think he is still very likely going to get a nomination, I don't really think he's as strong to win. I think the Daniels are probably out front as of right now. They've been doing really well, pretty much sweeping all of the critics groups, and then they also won the Critics' Choice. Martin McDonagh, I think, is also pretty much a lock. The Banshees is one of the biggest contenders, so obviously director is going to go along with that. Todd Field for Tar, I think, is also a lock. He's been getting nominated across the board. Spielberg is definitely in there as well. He won the Globe, and he just has a big narrative behind him. And then at number 5, I got Edward Berger, who I didn't even think of putting in the director lineup up until recently, when all of a sudden the film has been surging and did super well at the BAFTAs. But every year there is an international director in the lineup. It just always happens. And I really feel like it's going to be him this year. Obviously, that's not to say there will guaranteed be one in the lineup, but this seems like, you know, another round like Cold War. But if one were to slip out of the lineup, I think it would be him. And who would take his place? I think Baz Luhrmann could be the one to take his place. Elvis has been performing way beyond my expectations. Number 7, James Cameron, a big technical achievement, which can often land you a director nomination, but not always. Just last year, Denis Villeneuve missed for Dune, and this seems like a very similar situation. Number 8, Joseph Kosinski. Maybe he gets in for Top Gun Maverick, depending on how much they love that movie. If they are just head over heels for Top Gun Maverick, maybe it makes it in. It's a very well-directed film. He did get a DGA nomination, which is kind of big, so maybe we shouldn't count him out. All right, moving on to actress. Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh are locks. Cate Blanchett obviously winning the Critics' Choice, and both of them taking home a Golden Globe. Danielle Deadwyler, I think she is definitely getting in as well. She has not missed anywhere. At number 4, I got Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. A lot of people were worried after she missed the SAG nomination, but I still think she's going to get in. I think she goes along with The Fabelmans. If any performance is going to be nominated for The Fabelmans, it's got to be Michelle Williams, right? She's such a big name. She has such an Oscar baity performance. Maybe the only reason she would miss is that you know, people think that this was category fraud. She should be in supporting actress. Who knows? Maybe she misses because of that, but I find it unlikely. I do think she's gonna making it in. And then number 5 is interesting. I got Ana de Armas for Blonde in right now just because she's been getting nominated consistently. She obviously got the Globe, she got the BAFTA, she got the Critics' Choice. Like, she's been nominated for for a lot. It's interesting because Blonde was pretty universally hated, but Ana de Armas has kind of survived and is still looking pretty strong. Although at number 6, Viola Davis has also been nominated everywhere. Like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be predicting Viola Davis, but for some reason, I just feel like she could miss somehow. The Oscars really like it when you're playing somebody else. You know, that's a very common theme with Oscar winners and nominees. Jessica Chastain last year being a good example of that. So with Ana de Armas playing Marilyn Monroe, I feel like they'll go for her over Viola Davis. I just have a feeling. We will see. I won't be surprised at all if it ends up being Viola Davis. And then Margot Robbie, which is kind of sad. Margot Robbie is phenomenal in Babylon. She should be getting one of these nominations. She is giving it her all in that movie, but I don't know who I would take out to put her in, and Babylon is just looking a little weaker overall, so I think she could miss because of that. Maybe she jumps both Ana de Armas and Viola Davis. Who knows? And I'll touch on Andrea Riseborough real quick for To Leslie. This has been such a weird phenomenon that's been happening over the past week or so, where all of these celebrities have been coming out and campaigning for her to get a nomination. Very strange. I don't really understand what's happening, why this is happening, how this is happening, and how much support there is for her and how much of a thing this really is. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna end up happening. This is such a small movie that hasn't had any sort of push at all. Obviously, she didn't get nominated at any precursor. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I gotta put her in there just because of what's been happening. All right, let's move on to actor, where we have a very solid locked in top 3 in Brendan Fraser, Austin Butler, Colin Farrell. Those 2 are gonna be nominated for sure. Which one will win? I go back and forth on like every day. As for right now, I'm saying Brendan Fraser for The Whale, just because of the narrative he has behind him. Bill Nighy at number 4 is also looking very, very strong, been nominated everywhere. Number 5 is where it gets interesting once again. Some people think Tom Cruise might get in. I think there's a chance. A lot of people think Paul Mescal could get in. There is no clear frontrunner for that 5th slot, but for now I'm gonna go with Jeremy Pope, which might seem like a bit of a odd pick. The only support he's really gotten is at the Globes, but I don't really see Tom Cruise getting in for Top Gun Maverick, even though the film is so loved. And Paul Mescal for Aftersun, that film is such a small movie and it hasn't been getting any nominations. It didn't get like barely anything at the BAFTAs. He hasn't been getting in anywhere, so I don't really see it either. This 5th slot is kind of up in the air. I could see it going in a bunch of different directions, but yeah, for now I'm gonna go with Jeremy Pope. All right, supporting actress, number 1, I got Angela Bassett. She is going to be the first performance nominated ever for a Marvel movie, which is kind of wild. She has been kind of sweeping all the awards, which is kind of crazy, but obviously she has a lot of support behind her. Carrie Condon also is going to get a nomination for sure. The rest of this category though, I could see going in a couple of different directions. Jamie Lee Curtis has been like campaigning so hard to get this nomination, and it's been going pretty well for her. She has been getting in over Stephanie Hsu for the most part. It seems like anytime that Stephanie Hsu's been nominated, Jamie Lee Curtis has been nominated alongside her, but there's not been many instances where just Stephanie Hsu has been nominated. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with Jamie Lee Curtis over Stephanie Hsu. I don't think they're both gonna get in, so I'm gonna go with Jamie Lee Curtis. She's also just such a big name, and I think a lot of people want her to get that Oscar nomination, that first Oscar nomination, even if, you know, she doesn't have a lot of screen time and maybe it's not particularly Oscar worthy. Number 4, I got Hong Chow for The Whale. She got in at the BAFTAs, and yeah, she just looks to be a pretty safe bet to get one of the 5 slots. If I'm predicting The Whale to get a Best Picture nomination, I do think that she would go along with that. And then number 5, I'm gonna put Dolly De Leon for Triangle of Sadness. Could go to Stephanie Hsu, could go to Carey Mulligan. She's been getting some nominations. It could even go to one of the Women Talking ladies, Jessie Buckley or Claire Foy. I don't know. I'm gonna put Dolly De Leon for now. Supporting actor, Ke Huy Quan is sweeping. He's gonna continue to sweep, so he's gonna get that nomination. Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan have also been nominated kind of across the board. So it seems like both of those Banshee boys are getting in. And then Paul Dano for The Fabelmans, I have at number 4. I think he is more likely than Judd Hirsch. Judd Hirsch only has like one scene really, and you know, that didn't work for Bradley Cooper last year. I don't think it's going to work for Judd Hirsch this year. Number 5 is interesting. A lot of people are going to say Eddie Redmayne, and I could easily see that happening just because he has been getting the nominations. He got the BAFTA. I, for some reason, just don't see it happening. I don't believe it. I don't believe the Oscars are gonna go for Eddie Redmayne. But I don't know who else to put at number 5. Brad Pitt, maybe, because he's Brad Pitt, but also he's had a lot of controversy recently. I don't know how that impacts his chances. I don't know. I might go Brad Pitt, which is a little crazy, but if I have Babylon in for picture, then maybe it's more likely. I don't feel good about it. I would love to see it go to Ben Whishaw. I would love to see it go to Brian Tyree Henry, but I just don't really see any of those happening. All right, original screenplay. Number 1, I got The Banshees of Inisherin. It's a lock for that nomination. Same with Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Fabelmans, I think, is gonna be in there as well. And Tar, I think, are all kind of locks for a nomination. You know, when you're super strong for a Best Picture nomination, screenplay often goes along with that. So I'd be shocked if any of those miss. And then I have Triangle of Sadness at number 5. That's kind of been the 5 everywhere. And I have no reason to pick anything other than that. Like After Sun, I don't really see happening. Adapted screenplay, The Whale, Women Talking, Glass Onion. I think those 3 are all gonna get in. I'd be devastated if Women Talking doesn't get that nomination. I really think it will. Glass Onion too, even though they both missed the BAFTAs, which is crazy. Both missed the BAFTAs, but I have no reason to believe they won't get the Oscar nom. She Said, I'm gonna put it at number 4. It's a very script-y movie, you know? It's a very talky movie, and I think that sometimes helps in getting you a screenplay nomination. And then All Quiet on the Western Front, kind of iffy on that, but again, if I'm predicting it for picture, then it's pretty likely it's gonna get that screenplay nomination. The only other options I think are Living. Living could definitely get in. Top Gun Maverick is also a potential upset, though even if the Academy loves Top Gun Maverick, I don't think they're necessarily gonna vote for it for adapted screenplay. That's not really the strongest element of the movie, but I wouldn't count it out. All right, so for cinematography, Top Gun Maverick has been doing the best in all the critics groups, so that's number 1. All Quiet on the Western Front recently got the BAFTA, and it did very well in many different categories. Also got the ASC, which is pretty big. Same with the Batman, that got the ASC as well, and often those do correlate with the Oscar nominations. I'm gonna put Avatar: The Way of Water in my top 5, which is a little risky, and I don't feel fantastic about that since it did miss the ASC. But I think it being a contender for Best Picture and it just being such a visual spectacle could end up giving it that nomination. But again, I don't feel great about it. And then Empire of Light I have in at number 5, which also got the ASC, and it's Roger Deakins, who's a very respected cinematographer, though the film doesn't have a shot in any other categories and has been completely shut out from the award season. So that's why I'm a little bit skeptical. I think that there's a chance they don't go for it. Elvis, I could definitely see taking its spot, as it also got an ASC nomination. And then Babylon has been missing a lot. Surprisingly, a really, really wonderfully shot film. I think very much deserved of a nomination, but I have it at number 7. I think it could potentially still make its way in if the Academy somehow really loves Babylon, but I don't think it will. All right, moving on to editing. Obviously, I have to have the strongest contenders for Best Picture in the lineup. So I have Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Banshees of Inisherin. Top Gun Maverick I have in here, as well as sound and editing often correlate, and Top Gun Maverick is probably going to win sound. So going off that, you could say that it's probably going to win editing, though I think Everything Everywhere All at Once could steal it from Top Gun Maverick, just in how unique and showy its editing is. And then Elvis I have at number 4. Again, another example of very, very showy editing, which we've seen time and time again is something that the Oscars go for. Also, it is very strong in Best Picture, so again, that's something that correlates. And then number 5 is interesting. I'm kind of going between 3 different films. I'm going between Avatar, All Quiet on the Western Front, and The Fabelmans. I'm tempted to put The Fabelmans in because I think it's a pretty strong contender in Best Picture. I think I would put it at number 3 for now. But Avatar, The Way of Water, and All Quiet on the Western Front are more technically impressive, which can get you that editing nomination, and I think I'm gonna go with Avatar: The Way of Water just because of how impressive it is and how it's constructed. Production design, number 1, Babylon. This is a category that Babylon will be nominated for, deservingly so. Avatar: The Way of Water, also very, very strong production design in that film as well. Elvis, another example of a film with very showy and extravagant production design, so I think that gets in as well. And I'm gonna take a bit of a swing with number 5 and say The Batman. I don't know why, I just have a feeling that The Batman could get in. Why am I predicting this over Black Panther? I don't know, I just think that there's gonna be some people who wanna give The Batman some love. Fabelmans, Black Panther, Glass Onion, even White Noise, I think all could get in as well. Makeup and hair, The Whale, for obvious reasons. You know, Brendan Fraser is looking very strong an actor. It's potentially a picture contender, and it's just like the most makeup of the year. Number 2, I have The Batman with Colin Farrell's transformation into the Penguin. Elvis, I think, is pretty much a lock in here as well when you think about what they did with Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. All Quiet on the Western Front has a lot of makeup in that film as well and has been surprising with some of its nominations. And then number 5, I'm gonna go with Amsterdam, which if you've seen the film, it does have a lot of great makeup. For costume design, I got Elvis, Black Panther, Babylon. I think Babylon could get in here. The Woman King, I think, could definitely steal one of those spots. And then I'm gonna put Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris at number 5. It is a movie about costumes similar to Cruella from last year. That was last year, right? And I think if your movie is all about costumes, there's a pretty good shot you might get that nomination. It was shortlisted, so I think that will get in. All right, moving on to score, I got Babylon here at number 1. This has been winning all the critics groups, even where it hasn't been getting any other nominations, so I'm very happy about that. Best score of the year for sure. The Banshees of Inisherin is also looking very strong. For sound, at number 1, I got Top Gun Maverick, an obvious pick there. Probably gonna win the Oscar. Avatar: The Way of Water is number 2. And then I got All Quiet on the Western Front at number 3. The Batman, I think, is gonna score a nomination for sound here. I'm gonna take a bit of a risk and put Babylon in at number 5 for sound. I think that if I'm predicting it to get a Best Picture nomination, I gotta give it a couple tech nominations. So I'm gonna put it in for sound just because I think there's a lot of sound in Babylon, a lot of different elements that are going on, but I could easily see Elvis taking its spot because Elvis obviously also has a lot going on, and it's a movie filled with music. Everything Ever All at Once could also be a surprise here, depending on how much passion the film has as a whole. All right, moving on to song, Natu Natu, I have it number 1 from RRR. That's the favorite right now. Hold My Hand and Lift Me Up. You got Lady Gaga and you got Rihanna. Come on, those are getting nominated. Ciao Papa is looking like the song from Pinocchio to be nominated. And number 5, I got Applause from Tell It Like a Woman. This is the Diane Warren song, which I don't really get it. I don't know why she's nominated like every time she does a song, and I don't even know what Tell It Like a Woman is. Never heard of that movie, but she just like never misses for some reason. So I have no reason to doubt that she's gonna miss this nomination. Though if she were to miss, I think it would maybe go to Nothing Is Lost from Avatar, New Body Ruma from White Noise, maybe Carolina. Maybe Good Afternoon from Spirited. I would love that if Good Afternoon got in, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Moving on to visual effects, Avatar: The Way of Water is obviously number 1. Top Gun Maverick, number 2, and The Batman. I think all those are very strong. All Quiet on the Western Front does have a lot of very impressive visual effects, and you know, if you watch the visual effects breakdown, I think it has a lot going for it. Animated feature, Pinocchio is our front runner, Turning Red at number 2. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is really hot right now, at number 3. And then Marcel the Shell with Shoes On at number 4. All 4 of those films have been getting nominated everywhere. The Annies, the BAFTAs, the Critics' Choice, the Golden Globes, everywhere. Those films have been nominated consistently across the board. The number 5 slot is where it gets a little interesting. I'm gonna go with The Bad Guys, even though that did miss the Annies. I think more people have seen that film, and it was very well liked by critics. And has like really unique animation to it as well. All right, so international feature, obviously All Quiet on the Western Front is a lock for a nomination there. Decision to Leave has been another front runner in this category. And then Argentina 1985 has been performing surprisingly well. It won the Golden Globes over All Quiet on the Western Front and Decision to Leave, which is pretty wild. So that's in at number 3. I'm gonna put Bardo in at number 4, which is a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think Bardo gets in simply because of its name recognition, because a lot more people are going to have seen this movie. The fact that it is Alexandro Inarritu. And for my number 5 slot, I'm going between The Quiet Girl or Close, but for now I'm going to go with The Quiet Girl just because it got that adapted screenplay nomination at the BAFTAs. And then finally, documentary feature. I'm not as well versed in the documentaries, but from what I've seen, it looks like Navalny is pretty strong. It's a very relevant documentary at this point in time, and that looks pretty good. Fire of Love is the big National Geographic documentary for this year. Weirdly though, sometimes those big National Geographic documentaries that seem like they're gonna get in, don't get in. I'm talking last year with The Rescue. Fire of Love kind of feels like that movie that could like really weirdly miss for no reason, but I have no reason to believe it will miss, so I'm gonna predict it to get in. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, All That Breathes, also looking very strong, and I'm gonna put The Territory, which is another National Geographic film, at number 5. Okay. That was a lot to go through, but those are my final predictions for the Oscars. I'm super excited for the Oscar nominations to be announced. I'll be doing a reaction video to the nominees, so stay tuned for that. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of my picks, if you agree, if you disagree, what you think that 10th slot for Best Picture is gonna be. Is it going to be Babylon? Is it going to be Triangle of Sadness? Is it going to be Women Talking? Is it going to be something else? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell notification icon button. Hit all the buttons. It means a lot. It really helps the channel out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.